here we are in Pentaloe Glen. I'm Jane Wise and I've been warden of Pentaloe Glen and Conville area for perhaps 15 years. I think it's a very special place. It's hidden. It's a small part of Haugh Woods which has not been planted with forestry trees. The reason being that it is a special environment which is fed by a little brook, a little spring from the Woolhope limestone. And the pH is alkaline, which favours the growth of Marsh helleborine, which is doing quite well this year. Here's a small plant. Somewhat better one here. Now, you may wonder why we have these cages. The reason is that these orchids, when they're at their most beautiful, become particularly delicious to the deer, which are very common in Haugh Woods, and they unfortunately destroy the whole of the flowering head. You can see here there's a nibbled flower stalk where once there was a beautiful flower. So Pete Johnson has very kindly put up some cages, the idea being that we can protect the flowers, which can then go on to form seed heads and maintain the population in this reserve. Another special orchid which grows here is the Marsh fragrant orchid. This is described as nationally scarce, and scarce also in Herefordshire, in the Herefordshire Rare Plants book. This too, unfortunately, is particularly delicious if you're a deer, and we need to set up more cages for the protection of these orchids. They do grow rather tall, unfortunately, and this plant, you see, is about to reach its full flowering state, whereupon I would guess it's almost inevitable that it will be consumed. The number of these spikes was said to be 13 in 2007, and I suspect that the numbers have reduced somewhat, perhaps half a dozen we have now. But flowering of these orchids is irregular from year to year, but it is important that we do protect them from deer. Another specialty which we find here in quite large numbers is herb Paris. This is rather late in the season, it's July, it's at its best in May. It's particularly likely to grow where there is just about the right amount of shade. It is in fact the emblem of the Coppices Society because coppicing maintains the shade in the areas which they like to grow, which also have to be fairly damp. And the conditions here suit it just fine. This is the area of the reserve where you can find meadow saffron. It's really beautiful in September with its pink crocus-like flowers, but unfortunately it tends to get submerged by bracken, as you can see. I've tried hard to knock back the bracken over quite a few years, and it has suppressed the bracken, but unfortunately that's only led to more bramble. So it's really quite difficult to maintain the right balance, but they do seem to be thriving, which is good news. The reserve is also very special in early spring because it's got a great many wooden flowers. It's got aquilegia, it's got bluebell, primrose, cowslip, coltsfoot. Here in July we've got St John's wort, we've got marsh thistle, lots of foxglove, betony. There is a very wide range of species which is undisturbed in Pentaloe Glen.